Begin Self-Publishing, episode number 75. Amazon SEO with Dave Chesson.
Interested in self-publishing but don't know where to start? Want to get your book onto Amazon? Want to hold your paperback book in your hands? Learn how on the Begin Self-Publishing podcast with your host, Tim Lewis.
On today's show, I talked to somebody who brands himself as a Kindlepreneur. I was always a bit suspicious of people who had Kindle in the title of their business. But after hearing him being interviewed on the Entrepreneur on Fire podcast, I was impressed by how much he actually knew about SEO, particularly involving the Amazon store. So I thought I'd have him on the show. So now over to the interview. Hi Dave, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks Tim. It's really good to be here.
Okay, so what exactly is SEO, and how does it differ in terms of between Google and on the Amazon store?
Well, SEO is search engine optimization, right? And the idea behind SEO is that you have something that you want a search engine to not only be able to find, but put it in front of the person who's doing the search. So in Google, when you go to Google and you type into their search box, how to tie a tie, Google goes through the billions of different websites in the world and it ranks them and it shows those, potential websites or articles from 1 to 14 on the first page, right? And then you see the list and you click on it. Now, what's really important about SEO is that if your article or website ranks number 1, then according to the statistics, you can expect 37% of all people that type that in will click on yours. But if you're number 2, then it quickly drops down to something like 13 or 12%, and then 8 and 7, 6, 6, 6, 5. So that's super huge that if you're writing something, you want it to show up in front of the right search so that you get that traffic and you get that potential of that person enjoying your website. Now that's Google, but if we take a step to the right and we look at Amazon is the same thing, right? But this time, instead of people looking for information, they're looking for products, or in our case, they're looking for books. So when they go into Amazon and they type in, whatever it is they're looking for, like epic sci-fi military, okay? If your book shows up number 1 at the top for that search, you've got a really good chance, which according to our statistics is about 27% of the people that type it in will click on your book, and then it's up to your book sales page to convince them to buy it. I mean, that includes your cover, your book description, your, subtitle, all of these important parts to make that person say, yes, I want to pay that price and start reading it. So to come back at it, right, SEO, whether on Amazon or Google, is all about making sure that search engine believes that your book or product or webpage is the right one for that search and puts it at the top. So, you can see how powerful and important that is, that you, maybe not even a known author, this might be your first book, but just to be able to get it in front of the right market gives you that discoverability and gives you that initial success that hopefully the rest of your writing takes you on to the next step.
The question that a lot of people would ask is, what should people, in terms of like keywords, ideally what should authors consider in terms of keywords before they even start writing their book? Is that the place to do it, or can they sort of optimize it after they've written the book?
Well, you can do it before and after, okay? Before, what I call that then is book idea validation, okay? So when you're doing keyword research before you write your book, you're validating whether or not your idea is a good one. As in, is there a market on Amazon willing to buy my book, okay? Now, if you're doing it after you've published your book, then what I call this is book revival, okay? Whereas you launched your book and you're not getting any sales and you're like, oh man, the right market is not finding my book. So then you go through and you try to switch up your keywords to be able to hopefully revive it, as in get it in front of the right people. So there are 2 steps to it. I prefer the first one because, like any good business, you want to validate your business idea before you spend time, energy, and money into it, right? But let's go ahead and take a step back. So what does constitute good keywords, right? What is a good target for you? Now, there are 3 things that I really think are important to success in this, okay? The first is to make sure that there are actually people on Amazon typing that particular keyword in. There's no reason, rhyme or reason, to go after a keyword that nobody types in. That's like, just going out into the middle of nowhere and shouting out, buy my book. It's just not going to work. If there's no one there, there's no one there. Okay. The second part is to make sure that it is a keyword that people are actually paying money for. There are multiple times where people will type something into Amazon, but it doesn't constitute a buy. A great example is when somebody types in the word fantasy. Okay. If you're typing in fantasy into Amazon, you really don't know what you're going to buy. You're at the beginning stages of your buyer's market. Okay. And, maybe you find the perfect book, but let's face it, there's a billion different types of fantasy out there. Now, if the person types in epic, Warhammer fantasy, well, they know what kind of fantasy they're looking for. They're looking for a certain book. Okay. That has a much higher buy rate than something that's very broad and the shopper doesn't know. So again, making sure that people will actually pay for. And the third one is competition. Okay. You don't want to try to rank, for Harry Potter, right? That's you'll never do it. So you want to make sure that the keyword has room, that you're able to make it to the top so that you do get that 27% that we talked about instead of 6%. So to revise or to go over that again, 1, make sure that people are actually typing the keyword in. 2, make sure that people are actually going to pay for books that rank for that keyword. And 3, make sure you can beat the competition so you actually show up in front of people. And those 3 things right there are key to keyword research.
Okay. Where exactly should people be entering in these keywords? Is it just the keywords box in Amazon, or does it take any notice of the descriptions and titles? Where should people be looking to put in the keywords, and how, once they've found the keywords that they're looking for?
So once you've done 1, 2, and 3 and you found some target keywords, the key places to put it is, the first one is those 7 Amazon keywords that they ask for. So when you go into your Kindle Direct Publishing and you go to publish your book, there's this one box that says Amazon keywords and it says choose 7 and you separate them by a comma. So go ahead and put them there. But if it's a very competitive keyword, okay, sometimes Amazon won't just accept that and index your book for it. Now, what I mean by index is that actually has your book show up for that search result. It could be on the first page or it could be on the 44th page. But the key is that Amazon acknowledges that your book should show up. So that's what we call indexing. Okay. So sometimes just choosing one of your 7 keywords in that box doesn't get you indexed. And it might require you to actually have that keyword in your book title, your subtitle, your description, inside your book. I mean, they do crawl that. So if your book doesn't even mention the word, why would they choose your book over somebody else's, right, to show up in the rankings? So there's that. The other thing, though, this isn't about keyword stuffing. So some of the people listening to us right now are like, Dave's just gaming. He's telling me to just throw it in there as much as often. No. I'm not saying that. But I do think you should consider keywords when you're creating a title, subtitle, and description, because keywords are the language of your target market, okay? They're the words that your target market is thinking of when they're trying to solve their problem. If it's nonfiction, it is the pain point that they want solved. If it is fiction, it is the way they think of a book that will connect with them, okay? I think my favorite is epic sci-fi military. Those are the words that pop up when I'm looking for the next book I want to read, right? Well, if your book truly, has in the description the next best epic sci-fi military, then I'm like, oh, this must be the book I'm looking for, right? If my pain point is how to stop smoking fast, well, if your book says that in the subtitle, I'm like, well, this is the one that must be addressing my real problem. I need to learn this fast. So, don't just think about this as some way to game the system, but understand that this is really good market research. You know what people are thinking and typing and feeling. So try to incorporate those things into your subtitle, into your description, so that when people are looking at it, they're like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. And you'll get a much higher conversion rate on those buys.
Okay, well, if we come back to the choice of keywords, obviously people can type things into the search box in Amazon and see what's suggested, but what kind of tools can people use to assess the keywords to use? Are they the same as what you would use for, say, if you were trying to do Google keyword analysis?
Well, back in the day, I used to use Google as a lot of my indications for which keywords to go after. There really wasn't anything out there that would give me Amazon's information. So what I said to myself was, well, Most people, when they start their buying journey, they start on Google and they just start typing in stuff. Maybe they're just starting to ask questions, and then finally they realize, oh, okay, fine, I just need to find a book on this. I'd prefer to read a book on it where everything's just there for me to access. Same thing with fiction too. Some people will start with just typing in books like Ready Player One, because they just read this amazing book, which is my all-time favorite book, Ready Player One. And they're like, oh, I just want to read another one like it. So people will start on Google and then transition to Amazon when they're ready. So I started by using a lot of keyword tools. A free one that's out there is Google's own keyword planner. And you can go to that and it will tell you not only how many people per month type that into Google, but it will also give you suggestions, like other ways of saying it. So you could say say it's resume, and Google will say, well, people also say curriculum vitae and CV and how to write a resume and all these other suggestions that you can kind of come up with. So my beginning success was all about kind of leaning on Google. But my team and I actually just created software that does all of what we're talking about, but for Amazon. So it's called KDP Rocket. You can find it on kdprocket.com. And what it does is so you put in your book idea or your initial idea, and then it will tell you how many Amazon searches per month people are making, as well as Google, so you can see them both. It tells you how much money per month books are making on average on the first page of Amazon. And it will give you a competition score of 1 to 99 so you can figure out if you can beat it or not.
Okay, so how does that product work? Are you sort of crawling the Amazon site, or is this based on experience? How does the tool know what works on Amazon?
Well, the first thing was we got an Amazon API key. So we have like the backdoor key to Amazon. And so we got a virtual high five from Amazon, which is great. So instead of scraping the information, actually Amazon just sends that information to us when the software requests it. So that's nice. But we also had to kind of infer on a lot of previous data and statistics and everything to be able to create a lot of those numbers. For example, Amazon does not tell anybody what the searches per month are like Google does. So what we did was we looked at kind of the popularity of books, popularity of searches, the crawl rates, and we were able to compile that to create our estimated Amazon searches per month. As for the competition score, that was definitely a lot of like my intuition over the years. So as to be able to know how the algorithm works and what it favors. And so our competition score looks at all of the different books that show up, and it's able to give you a pretty good number as to, yeah, these books are really geared towards that particular keyword and they're doing really good. So you're going to have to really rock it to beat those and get up to the top.
Okay. If we got somebody who's already got an existing book and maybe they're not quite at the point to buy your KDP Rocket software, what simple changes can an author make with an existing book that you think would be the thing that would instantly improve the possibility of it showing up higher on a search ranking when it comes to Amazon or Google?
Well, you're allowed to change keywords as many times as you want. Amazon even tells you go ahead and do it. They recommend it on certain occasions. So in this case, if you're kind of depending on Amazon to bring you traffic, right, then just go ahead and do some research like we just talked about. Find some actual keywords that are getting a lot of traffic but don't have a lot of competition, and then just change them out. Just see. Now, I'd only say do one at a time, okay? You don't want to change all 7 and then find out, whoa, something happened. It was really good. And, well, which one was it? And sometimes what you may find out is you'll select one and it dips. Your sales dip. But you can, put it back to the original. But just testing that out, a lot of people will see that they'll actually have a pretty good spike for a while and it may start to dip down. But just by changing a word, they made more sales. That's not a bad thing.
And should they be thinking about just individual words? Because, you were saying about fantasy isn't probably the best thing to search on. Should they be looking for what they would call sort of long tail, sort of very longer phrases, so like fantasy about elves or something along those lines? Should they be looking for expressions rather than keywords as such?
Well, so broad words usually get more searches, but they also have higher competition. Long-tail words, which long-tail for all those out there means that more than one word, more than usually 3 words depicts a long tail. Long-tail words, they usually get less traffic, but less competition. Now, what I tell book authors is that the truth is that you want to find the right one for the right market, okay? So if I am an epic sci-fi military writer, like 1 million people a month type in fantasy. But no, even if I rank number 1 for that, I'm going to get low sales conversions because, or for sci-fi, not fantasy, because there are so many different types of science fiction. But I would much rather rank for a term like epic sci-fi military than sci-fi. I would much rather rank my book that's like Ready Player One for the term Ready Player One, like number 4 or 5 or something like that. The point is that I want to get my book in front of my target market. So you need to use some of your kind of author skills of knowing what your target market would write so as to know this is the right fit, okay? Anybody can rank their book for anything, but if anything isn't what your target market is truly wanting, then you're not going to get the sales. You'll show up and a lot of people will see you, but you won't get the sales conversion.
Yeah, so when you're saying like books like a particular other book, is that's allowed then? So if your book is almost identical to Harry Potter but with, I don't know, dinosaurs or something, could you put books like Harry Potter in your keywords? I mean, is that approach allowed and is it effective?
One of your 7 keywords, no. Specifically, Amazon states that you cannot use a book title or an author name as one of your 7 keywords. However, though, books do rank under other books. So if you type in, say, we just did a case study on this. We did, what was it? Starship Troopers, I think. If you type in Starship Troopers, you'll notice that not only does Starship Troopers show up, but a lot of other science fiction books like Terms of Enlistment, Old Man's War. And why is that? Well, because those books were books that people also bought. And one of the things we looked at was Terms of Enlistment, which isn't famous, but why is it ranking number 3 for one of the most famous epic sci-fi military books ever? Was because in the book description, the person did talk about that this is another great sci-fi military book in addition to books like Starship Troopers. So people immediately associated said book with Starship Troopers, and it just started to naturally show up. I'm not saying that, try to game it by throwing in the names of other books, but do understand that being associated with good books is a great thing, especially in the search engines.
So if you were going to do that, that's the sort of thing to put in the description rather than the keywords and risk being kicked off Amazon.
Exactly. And in the description, you're allowed to state things like that. You can't do quotes, but you can state, another great addition to the science fiction Hall of Fame, like blah, blah, and blah.
Something I read on your Kindlepreneur blog was about needing to be very careful in terms of the actual links you use to the Amazon site. Could you explain a bit about that? To do with the little bits at the end of the actual Amazon URL usually.
Sure. So there is this tactic that a lot of people talk about, and I am so not a fan of. And the name of this thing is called an Amazon Super URL. Okay? An Amazon Super URL is where somebody has typed in a keyword into Amazon, whatever keyword they want to target for. And then they scroll down, they find their book, they click on it, and then they take that URL that shows up at the top. Inside of that URL, that link, okay, has the keyword. The idea is that if you send that link to your fans in your email list or whatever, and people click that link, they confuse Amazon into thinking that said person went to Amazon, typed that keyword in, found the book, and then bought it. The belief is that you are making Amazon think that, wow, when people type in this particular keyword into Amazon, they buy it. We should rank this number 1. But here's the thing, that if you go through that Amazon link, all right, you'll find these 2 little guys in there that kind of destroy this so-called terrible tactic, okay? The first is the QID number. QID is the number of seconds since 1970, okay? So they're counting. They have time-stamped when that search was actually done. Number 2 is that they have this checksum to validate where the book ranked, okay? It's like, off the top of my head, I think it's like N equals 2, R equals 3 or something like that, which 2 and 3 means on page 2, third from the top. And if it's not there when they click on it, then they know this is either A, a fake link that somebody created, or B, this is an outdated link that somebody sent out. So what does all that mean? Well, the idea is this. If Amazon is time-stamping the original creation of that link, and they're checking to make sure that it's not fake, then you can understand that they're probably not thinking that, oh, these people actually typed that in and then went to it 12 months ago. It's just not working. But here's where I start to get into the whole like telling people don't do this, okay? Some people do this just innocently. They go there because they've got to find their book so they can quickly send a link to somebody who said they want to buy it, right? But when you do this, you're connecting you to that person, okay? So you're creating this link, and Amazon now knows that you're the one who directed them to the book. Now, Amazon, as we all know, is starting to do this giant witch hunt. They're removing reviews like crazy, and it's very inconsistent. Nobody's able to figure out why this review stayed, but that review didn't. You know, why it's obvious that somebody totally faked this review and it's there, but a legit review from a fan was taken down within like 5 hours. My belief, and again, I want to stress this out, it is a belief because Amazon doesn't truly give us enough information to figure this out, is that I believe that they have an automated system, okay? It is a computer program that goes through and it tallies the percentage of possibility that this review is not a good one, okay? I believe that you using an Amazon super URL increases the risk that this is a biased review. So, therefore, I try to tell as many authors as possible, don't buy into this Amazon super URL tactic because not only one, does it not work, but two, you're increasing the chances that a review left by that fan will get removed.
So it's actually one of those maybe great idea that somebody thought up. It's actually massively counterproductive.
I think maybe back in the day, maybe 2.5 years ago or so, it really worked. I think that Amazon got wise. They changed up that link structure to add in the QIDs and things like that. And more importantly, now that they're going nuts trying to remove reviews, because by the way, let's also remember they're being taken to court, you know, for all of these fake products that they're selling as authentic. They're getting a little crazy, and I can't exactly blame them. They have been taking review sales services to court themselves. So we know that they're going, that it's, I mean, let's look at it from their perspective. If they remove a review, okay, that was legitimate, okay, whatever, right? You know, no big deal. But if they don't remove a review that is fake, and obviously so, then they could stand to get into trouble. So why not just remove them? And, you know, if the person complains that it was legit, then be like, oh, well, sorry. And again, they're not going to pay an army of people to manually, humanly review everything and try to come up with some kind of, yeah, that's not right. Or, okay. It's just it's a program that's going through and figuring it out. So don't increase your chances of getting your reviews removed for something that's outdated.
Yeah. Anyway, that's about all for this episode. How can people find out about you and Kindlepreneur and KDP Rocket and anything else that you want to promote?
Sure. Well, you can, if you go to kindlepreneur.com and you go to my contact page, just go ahead and send me a message. If anything I talked about here was a little confusing or you wanted some kind of clarification, just shoot one over and I still answer every one of those emails. I found out about a month ago that thing was broken, my contact page. So I was like, man, I haven't received a contact email in a long time. And sure enough, it was broken. So, but it's fixed. The second thing is that with KDP Rocket, just go to kdprocket.com. And it's $67. It's a one-time fee. I'm so anti-subscriptions. I mean, we get subscriptions out the wazoo. So I fought really hard to make sure that we were able to make it a one-time fee. So you can check that out there. And otherwise, I'm a big fan of Twitter, and you can hit me up at Dave Chesson.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for being on the show, Dave.
Hey, no problem. And thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please stop by iTunes and rate and leave a review. This helps make the show more visible. For free resources, show notes, and other helpful content, join the community at beginselfpublishing.com.